Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic goblin noise!
Hey gang, using the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, will get you 10% off any order over $10 at Flipside Gaming. It'll also get you 10% off any orders of singles at Multizone. And it'll get you 10% off most products at Original Magic Art, with the exceptions of some paintings. If these fine sites don't have what you're looking for, you can also consider using my affiliate link when ordering from TCG Player. And if you'd like to join the Generic Goblin Gang to support this channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Hey gang, and welcome back. I hope your social distancing is going well and you've managed to find some EDH games through Discord or Skype. Today's game is another Jersey Boys special, with Trevor playing Ikra and Vial Smasher. He keeps Fork, Vidalcan Orrery, Game Trail, Sheltered Thicket, Damnation, Cinder Glade, and Kadama's Reach. Mike is playing his newly made Evra deck, keeping 2 Plains, Core Cartographer, Burnished Heart, Lightning Greaves, and Children of Corliss. Harry is playing the new Lazav, keeping a Baleful Strix, Talisman of Dominance, Drowned Catacombs, Fetid Pools, Silumgar's Command, Unfulfilled Desires, and Phyrexian Dreadnought. Matt is playing his mono-black what he calls Group Hug, Seizan deck, keeping 3 Swamps, Font of Mythos, Mirage Mirror, Liliana of the Dark Realms, and Sudden Spoiling. Matt wins the die roll and starts us off. Matt plays a Swamp. Trevor plays a Temple of Malice, which comes in tapped, and he scries 1 to the bottom. Mike plays a Plains and casts his Children of Corliss. Harry plays a tap Fetid Pools. Matt plays another Swamp and passes. Trevor plays a tap Sheltered Thicket, also passing. Mike plays a Plains and casts Lightning Greaves. He puts them onto the children and hits Trevor for 1. Harry plays a Drowned Catacombs and taps both of his lands for a Talisman of Dominance. Matt plays a Swamp and pays 3 for Mirage Mirror. Trevor plays a Luxury Suite and then pays 3 mana for Kadama's Reach. He passes while searching for his basics. Mike draws and goes to combat. He hits Matt for 1 this time, and plays a Relic of Progenitus in his post-combat main phase. At the end of turn, Harry loses 1 life to the Talisman to cast Mental Note, milling his top 2 and then drawing a card. Harry plays a Swamp and pays 2 mana for a Baleful Strix. He draws as it enters, and then Harry loses another life to help pay for Lazav, who upon entering, surveils 1. Harry decides to keep it on top. Matt plays a Swamp and casts Thought Vessel before passing. Trevor plays a Game Trail, revealing a mountain from his hand. He then taps 4 mana for Vidalcan Orrery and passes turn. Mike draws and still doesn't have that 3rd land. He sacrifices the relic to exile all graveyards and draws a card. It isn't a land, and Mike passes. On Harry's upkeep, Trevor flashes in Grafdigger's Cage, and Harry plays a Rogue's Passage in his main phase. Harry then casts a Trinket Mage and goes to find a Soul Ring, putting it to hand before casting it. Moving to combat, the Strix hits Trevor for 1. Matt pays 4 in his main phase for Liliana of the Dark Realms, uptaking her to go and find a Swamp, while Mike silently seethes in a jealous rage. Matt then plays a Swamp and casts Howling Mind to help Mike out, and he passes turn. Trevor draws his 2 for turn and plays a Mountain. He casts Damnation in his main phase, and Harry responds with a Thought Scour. We then see Harry mill 2 and draw a card, and the board gets wiped. Mike draws 2 and dies a little more inside. He main phases an Enlightened Tutor to guarantee at least 1 of his next draws, and he puts Oath of the Liege on top before passing to Harry. Harry draws 2 and recasts Lazav. He surveils 1, keeping it there, and plays a tap Dimir Aqueduct, bouncing a Swamp back to hand. He then loses another life to the Talisman to help pay for an Unfulfilled Desires before passing to Matt. Matt draws 2 and plays a Swamp. He uptakes Liliana again to find another Swamp for his hand. Matt then plays out Font of Mythos trying to reassure the table that he's not in fact the bad guy, and Matt passes. Trevor draws 4 cards for turn, which is insane, and plays a Reliquary Tower. He then casts Vial Smasher and passes, with Harry suggesting that Trevor be very careful with his next turn if he doesn't want to lose half of his life. Mike draws his 4 cards as well, playing a Plains. He casts Oath of the Liege and passes, discarding down to 7. At the end of turn, Trevor flashes in Soul Ring and randomly rolls for Vial Smasher, which has him dealing 1 to Harry. Harry draws his cards for turn. Harry then plays an island for turn and casts his own copy of Lightning Greaves. He moves to equip them onto Lazav, and Trevor responds using Curtain's Call, and this puts to stack Vial Smasher's trigger. Harry responds once he gains priority to the Vial Smasher trigger, and moves to counter the non-creature spell with Silumgar's command, and give Vial Smasher -3/-3 with the other mode. With the mode selected, Trevor then responds once he gains priority, and he casts Fork on it. He has to use the same modes, and targets Lazav and Harry's Silumgar's command to counter. With that then done, Harry tries to counter the Fork with Muddle the Mixture. Trevor doesn't have an answer to this, and this ends it, with Harry winning the counter war, but Trevor still manages to hit Harry for 6 with a lucky Vial Smasher roll. The equip then resolves. Moving to combat, Harry then swings Lazav at Liliana for 1. Matt draws his 4 and plays a Swamp. He upticks Liliana again for another Swamp. We then see Seizan come in to help Matt and his friends draw even more cards, and he passes turn. On Trevor's upkeep, with the Seizan trigger on the stack, Trevor flashes in Sylvan Library, and then draws 2 and loses 2 from Seizan's trigger. He then moves to his draw step, and has a bunch of triggers go on the stack. He resolves Matt's first, as Matt is the non-active player, and he then draws 3 from the Mine and the Font. Trevor then resolves his Library trigger, drawing an extra 2 along with his normal draw. He puts 2 of them back, and he plays an Expedition Smoldering Marsh before passing turn. Mike resolves the Seizan trigger, drawing 2 and losing 2, and then going to find a basic with his Oath trigger. He grabs a Plains and then draws 4 in his draw step. He plays another Plains and casts a Gilded Lotus. Mike then taps the Lotus for 3, playing his own copy of Howling Mine, and the race to draw everyone out is on. Mike then passes, and Trevor casts Worst Fear at the end of Mike's turn to take control of Harry's next turn. Harry and Trevor draw 2 from Seizan and lose 2 life. They then draw another 5 cards from the remaining triggers during their draw step. Trevor then moves to his main phase, tapping the Soul Ring for Phyrexian Dreadnought, and as he doesn't have 12 power worth of creatures to sacrifice, has to sacrifice it as it enters. He then activates Lazav's ability to become a copy of the Dreadnought and swings it at Liliana. Matt decides it's not worth blocking and lets her take the hit. In his second main phase, Trevor/Harry then casts Disciple of Bolas, who enters, and Trevor has Lazav get sacrificed, gaining Harry 12 life and drawing him 12 cards. Trevor then plays a tap Bajuka Bog, exiling Harry's graveyard. Trevor then pays 1 mana to activate the Unfulfilled Dreams 3 times, losing 1 life each time and then drawing and discarding 3 times. Trevor then passes for Harry, discarding down to 7 for him. Matt loses his 2 and draws his billion cards for his turn before playing a Cabal Coffers and activating it. He pays 3 mana for Underworld Dreams in his main phase, and then taps more lands to help pay for the rest of Cage Sun. He names black as it enters. Matt then needs only tap 1 swamp for a Jet Medallion, and he then plays an Ivory Tower before passing turn. Trevor responds to the Seizan trigger, tapping 3 mana for a Krosan Grip to blow up the Underworld Dreams. He then draws 2 from Seizan and loses 2. He then draws another 4 cards from the Howling Mines and Font of Mythos, plus a card for turn, and then another 2 from his library. He puts the 2 back rather than lose any extra life to keep them. Trevor then plays a Blood Crypt untapped, losing 2 life, and passes to Mike. Mike draws and loses his 2 from Seizan, and then resolves his Oath trigger to find a Plains. Mike then draws 5 in his draw step, and he plays a Plains and casts his own Cage Sun, this time naming white. He then plays his Stonehewer Giant, who upon entering gets equipped with the boots. Mike then passes, discarding down to 7. Harry draws his 2 and loses 2 to Seizan on his upkeep, and then draws what at this point has become the norm, 5 cards per turn. he plays a command tower and brings out Lazav. He surveils 1 and moves to equip Lazav with the boots again. He checks his yard and swings Lazav at Trevor for some revenge. With no blockers declared, Harry activates Lazav before moving to damage. He pays 1 to have Lazav become a copy of the Looter Ilkor. He still only deals 1 damage, but does get to draw a card and then discard 1. In his post-combat main phase, Harry then puts to stack Ashiok, and Trevor doesn't like this. With the Planeswalker on the stack, Trevor flashes in Skyshroud Claims, and goes to find 2 forest cards. He grabs an Overgrown Tomb and a forest, taking 2 to have the tomb come in untapped. He then rolls for the Vial Smasher trigger, who seems to have a bullseye for Harry, hitting him again. Trevor then counters with Red Elemental Blast, and Harry has nothing else to do but pass and discard down to 7. Matt gets to go and find a land with the Oath trigger because Trevor has more lands than he does, and he gains 3 life to his Ivory Tower trigger, and responds to his own Seizan trigger. He has the Mirage Mirror become a copy of the font, and then draws 2 and loses 2 from Seizan. Matt then draws a whopping 7 cards on his draw step, and he plays a Swamp and counts them up. He activates the coffers and casts Waste Not and then Liliana's Caress. Matt then drops a Locust Miser and then a Kagamaru, which is almost like a board wipe on a body at this point. Matt then needs only pay 4 mana for a Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and with the Enter the Battlefield ability hitting the stack, Trevor flashes out a copy of Blasphemous Act to help lower the devotion cost. With the wipe on the stack, Mike also activates his Giant to go and find an equipment card. He puts to field a Conqueror's Flail, and they then resolve the Gary trigger, draining Matt's opponents for 2 each while Matt gains 6. With that all then resolved, Matt then casts Dark Deal. Seemingly always ready to have an answer, Trevor then pays 2 for Assassin's Trophy to take out the Caress while the wheel is on the stack. The Dark Deal then resolves, albeit with a lot less pain, but Matt still gains oodles of value from it. Harry discards 2 lands, 3 creatures, and 2 non-creatures. Trevor discards 4 lands and 5 non-creature cards, while Mike discards 4 lands, 1 creature, and 2 non-creatures. This gives Matt a combined total of 20 black mana, 4 zombie tokens, and 9 card draw triggers from his Waste Not. They then all draw equal to how many they had, minus 1. Matt still has quite a bit of mana floating, and he pays 5 for a Wound Reflection. He then puts to stack Torment of Hailfire, where X is 13. This is 39 potential damage if they don't discard or sacrifice non-land permanents. Harry at this point realizes he's dead either way because of the reflection, and just takes all 39 to keep Matt from gaining even more advantage because of the Waste Not, hoping Trevor can take him out. Trevor then discards and sacrifices enough to prevent 9 of the triggers, while Mike also realizes he's pretty much dead at this point and just dies to the Torment to deny Matt's Waste Not triggers. Matt then draws 4 from the Waste Not triggers and gains some zombies. Matt then plays out Obnixilis the Hate Twisted, and Matt then passes, with Trevor losing another chunk of life at the end of turn, putting him to 1. Trevor untaps and moves to his upkeep, unable to move to his draw step without taking care of Obnixilis first, otherwise he'll lose. He casts Wildest Dreams where X is 2, and returns the Assassin's Trophy and Rude Awakening to hand. He then taps the rest of his mana, floating 1 black, to cast Rude Awakening and untaps his lands. He then taps a green to use the Assassin's Trophy to take out Obnixilis. Trevor can now draw without dying, and draws from the Mine, the Font, and for his turn. He then casts a Demonic Tutor, and the Dualcaster Mage to tutor twice. He goes through his library to hopefully find a way to pull himself back from the brink, but midway through he realizes he needs more mana than he has access to. He grabs 2 cards, and casts Wretched Confluence, having all of the modes make him draw a card and lose 1 life to take himself out of the game and give Matt the win. Game review time. So it might have seemed like Trevor was going pretty hard on Harry this game, and he kind of was, and he kind of wasn't. A lot of Trevor's removal and interaction seemed to only involve hitting other creatures, and since Matt and Mike weren't really playing anything, Trevor could only use it on 1 opponent. Harry is also a terrifying player to play against because he typically builds his decks in such a way, especially the Lazav deck, that he can almost certainly take someone out in 1 shot. As soon as Harry started saying stuff like that, you kinda had to take him seriously. Matt's Seizan deck seems to do a good job of balancing between giving people what they want and giving Matt what he wants. He drew not only himself but the table an absurd amount of cards in this game, and I love that kind of effect because it allows you to see more of the deck. As I was watching this, as soon as I saw him resolve the Waste Knot, I knew the game was pretty much over, since he was going to get so much value off of anything like Torment of Hailfire, or, in this case, Dark Deal. Mike unfortunately suffered the most in this game, having to mulligan down to 6 and then not really having much of a hand or action until late game. I would have loved him to see Evra get out and start smashing face with his commander, dealing crazy amounts of damage, but unfortunately we'll have to hope to see that in another game. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.